it's so nuts that, so even back then you lost a huge chunk of friends. And what do you attribute that to? You, is that straight up mind control? Is there a demonic takeover that has people not even able to discuss policies or proposals? Like what is it that has made everyone so intolerant and basic and insane?
I can't remember, and I think it was a season of American Horror Story. I could be wrong, or it was those guys that put something together. Oh, geez. Oh man, what was it? It might have been one of their sub shows, and I can't remember right now, but it was early Hollywood. And when they first started to realize that when I think Louis B. Mayer, and I could be wrong, I do need to look this up, but it shocked me how in our faces this was.
Mhm.
When they first realized that they could use the then talkies, right? The
Right.
early spoken movies and stuff, when they realized they could take their actors that were out of work, that needed work, they
Mhm.
were starving, they needed work, take the out of work actors that had big names when the ones that didn't make it when we went from silent to talkies.
Mhm.
And so big names in silent film, not so big when we went to talkies, and we had a whole switch over of people. So those people who were still friends with all these other people, they put them to work doing internal LA political campaigning, and it was
Oh.
all lies, it was all this stuff going on, and that was the birth of kind of the modern day commercial political season commercial attacks towards each other, and it got very sophisticated. So this is the birth of it back there. It's like
Mhm.
1919 or in there somewhere, and it might have been in the 20s. I think it was after, so yeah, it's 1930s. It's
Mhm.
after the stock market. And and so we saw the birth of that through Hollywood here in America, and it started really local in LA with local politics that were going to get in bed with what some of the big runners in Hollywood were doing. And, David O. Selznick, Louis B. Mayer, all these big monsters there. And this ties in, of course, 100% ties into some of the other stuff we see down the road a little bit later, the Elizabeth Short stuff that is very interesting in 1947 as an example, as a playing card that got laid. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Well,
Anyway,
wait, will you catch us up to speed on what that is?
that's the Black Dahlia.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And so, and that plays into a lot of other stuff I talked to. But what I'm talking about here is the political game. So
Mhm.
when this was such a success in LA, that political presidential candidates and local governor candidate, this took off. This became a sub industry, and that's what we see now, and we've seen our whole entire lives with the season of the political commercials that are just vitriol and nasty. And
Nasty. It's so low vibe these days. The mudslinging, like,
the
I'm
art, they
embarrassed for.
lost the art of it, Danny. They lost the art of it.
It's like dog fighting. It's just so trashy at this point.
Well, this is where society is. This is where pop
Right.
culture is.
Right.
And that's the whole point of all this. This is where, because remember, they're playing to the audience.
Right.
And we need to always remember this with pop culture. Who are they playing to? They're playing to the audience. Well, who's the audience? The people that are actually watching them and funding them. Now, this isn't I'm not talking the big time funders that are behind there with the black budget and stuff. I'm talking about the person that goes and buys that Gucci bag off of eBay because they need that Gucci bag, right? That
Right.
audience.
Right.
That's a fake, right? That audience. And of course, the people that can afford the Gucci bag and they're just that are getting pillow face. They're just that vacuous that
Right.
that audience, there's a lot of money in that audience. So this is all about where it's all carny in the end. It's all carny, and they just need your participation. However you give it by attention, you give it by money, you give it by action, you give it by voice, you give it by vote. There's so many ways to get ensnared in this. And this is why it's important to see what's going on through a different lens, by checking your emotional meter, by putting
Right.
your emotions in a chest somewhere and approaching all the material you're seeing in the outer world with that kind of non-emotional place. Now,
Mhm.
it's good to check in with your emotions. How do I feel about this? How do I feel about this? But when you're dealing with it, it's good to keep the emotions out, because you need to stay clear. And this unfortunately leads a lot of people to the point where they don't vote, they don't pay taxes, and they're trying to check out. And that's great, because I'm all in that camp. And all I want to say with that is I love that chef's kiss. And then understanding, well, how do you check out? There are ways to opt out. But the problem is you can't follow the ones that are telling you to opt out with join this program and pay this money to get this form, and then you'll just see another lineup of a person going to jail for doing some shit that made no sense.
Right.
And I mean, there's a lot of pitfalls here. This is all like the land of the dead, and it's all like the way, say, tomes like the Egyptian Book of the Dead or Going Forth by Day are talking about navigating this hellscape, because everything kind of is sticky. Everything kind of has a little bit of a trap to it. And the further into the digital realm we get, the harder it is, as we were talking about earlier. And everything that we're experiencing in culture right now, if you're seeing it and it's got a high volume of people, it's getting splayed everywhere. It's serving two purposes. It's one purpose is probably to distract you from something else. And another purpose is to keep that adrenaline going and to drain those adrenos.
Thanks for tuning in, Tribe. If you are finding any value whatsoever from my videos, I'm inviting you to feel into becoming a paid supporter on either my Patreon platform, my Locals platform, or Dare to Dream. Both. The path of the truth-telling journalist has gotten quite a bit crunchy over the past few years. The shadow banning and the censorship have really taken their toll. So your support allows me to keep on keeping on, to keep on making videos and sharing my content. So once again, if you are receiving any value from what I'm doing here, if you're digging my videos, if they make you smile, if they make you think, thank you for supporting me on Patreon, on Locals. Your support really, truly allows me to continue to do this.